Hello and welcome in to Betting Life's college football pregame betting show. I'm your host, Thor Nystrom, joined as always by NBC Sports' Eric Froton and the coach, Gene Clemons. Over the next 90 minutes, we're going to be giving you our best bets of the day. We're going to be emptying the clip on all of our player props. And later on, we're going to be bringing on Mike Bainbridge to talk about DFS and get deeper into those props. We'll also be answering all your audience questions. So if you're on the YouTube channel, type those in the box below there, and we'll get to them. We're going to get to them a little bit earlier in this episode. So start putting them in right now, and we'll get to them in just a little bit here. Also, if you're on YouTube, please click the like button beneath us. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us get the word out there. And if you're on Twitter, if you wouldn't mind sharing that link for us, even with a friend, we'd appreciate that as well. We got a packed card and just a little inside baseball. We were talking before the show about how much action we all have on today's card and how much we liked on today's card. Might be more confident heading into today than we have in the past. And we've been on a roll, boys. So let's get right into it. Starting with a game where we have line movement this morning. Miami traveling to Louisville today. We got a noon Eastern kickoff. This one was at -4 up until yesterday. I'm now seeing up to -5.5 in the market. This thing pushing close to 6. Miami favorite, of course. Gene, who do you like in this ACC game?
Yeah, I think this is one of those where I think Vegas might be overthinking it, right? Like I don't know why this line is so close. Miami playing tough competition. Miami playing in close games. Miami going on the road, getting it done, and now Miami gets to come, and stay on the East Coast where they don't have to worry about, the 3 hour time changes and playing at midnight. And they got a week off to kind of decompress from what that was and restart the battery and go into the second half of their season. I think Miami just has too many explosives that Louisville's not going to be able to compete with. I like Miami right here, and I like Miami big, to be honest with you.
Froton, it's we talk about the Louisville defense because it's one of those lopsided defenses where they're good against one thing and really bad against one thing, and how advantageous that is for prop handicapping. Unfortunately for Louisville, and to Gene's point, Louisville's run defense is really good. Their pass defense is not. This could be a tough matchup against Cam Ward and that high-octane Miami passing offense.
Yeah, and as you discussed, 95th in passing success rate allowed, 112th in completion rate, and 22nd in interception rate. And the big problem with Louisville is their secondary. And the reason why is it's been a mash unit up and down the lineup. Their starters, I believe they have maybe one of their 4 designated starters still playing. We'll see what happens with the attrition and the injuries for this game and who plays. But against Miami's explosive passing attack, Louisville's going to need all their horses in the barn, to be able to handle this. Miami 6-0 to the over, just as potent as you could possibly expect. The number 3 rated S&P Plus offense. I just think it isn't just their passing attack, though. Second in rushing success rate, second in rushing stuff rate offensively, and their defense, while strong on a down-to-down basis, can give up big plays. 119th in yards per successful rush allowed, 118th in yards per successful pass. This opened on the total around 59.5. It is 60, 61 in some places. If you can get this at 60, I think you're going to see just points all over the board. This is an overplay for me.
For me, this is a prop game. The Cam Ward, the yardage was way too high for me to get involved, even though it's a very advantageous matchup. What was he at 325 now? 326?
He opened at 324.5. So traditionally we had seen him under 310, maybe 309 last week. And they didn't even mince words. They just went right to it and got to the 325.
Books weren't screwing around on that one.
Yeah.
They were like, we're not just bleeding money on these Cam Ward overs anymore. So to me, that one, it's I mean, we might get an avalanche here for Miami's offense, but I didn't touch it for that reason. The ones that I did, I like Jacoby George over 50.5 receiving yards. I think that there's value there in a game where you absolutely could project Miami to throw for 350 yards here, potentially. The other one I like, Damian Martinez under 51.5 rushing yards. Louisville's run defense is legit. It's their pass defense that is terrible. And Miami, they don't need any incentive to just eschew the run and just go through the air. Martinez has been a victim of that this season. I think he goes under this number. And then Froton, we both like the Isaac Brown, the kid at the Louisville running back that has emerged over the 68.5 rushing yards. Miami's run defense has some things that it could button up as well. That Brown kid has emerged. At the beginning of the season, they had a platoon. Now they just have the one guy. Moving on to our next game, we have the biggest game in Bloomington, Indiana in years. Nebraska, upstart Nebraska, 6.5-point underdog, heading to Bloomington for the real upstarts of the Big Ten. The Indiana Hoosiers, undefeated. Did not have that on my bingo card saying that before the season. This line is up to, I think we got 6.5 in the market. Yeah, 6.5 across the board. Gene, with Indiana favored by 6.5 in this game. Who do you like in this one?
For me, I college football and to a large extent college basketball, I really lean on coaching. I believe coaching matters a lot. And you've heard me say it. Fans have heard me talk about it. Insignetti, we trust. Right? Like, I just believe he's one of the best coaches in the game. And I'm just not really sold on this Nebraska team. Like, a lot of people, I believe, are still holding Nebraska to a level based off of a game that they won versus a Colorado where it was just an avalanche of unfortune for Colorado in that game, which we've seen them kind of clean up a little bit over the last few weeks. I don't think this Nebraska team is as good as others may think. And I think this Indiana team is better than people might be giving them credit for, if that can even happen. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for Indiana to win by a touchdown. If it had gone over a touchdown, like if it had been at 7.5, I might have thought about, throwing something on the other side just to kind of balance my bet. But I got this in early. And I think that Indiana has a chance to not only win, but win comfortably in this game.
Froton, are there any props you like in this one?
This is a tough read for me on the prop front. I kind of lean the over on Raiola there. He's at 222.5. I just feel like it's probably going to be a case.
We haven't talked about this one yet. I love the Raiola over.
Okay, good. Yeah, exactly.
I love the Raiola. 220.5. Are you kidding me?
I know it's ticked up a little, 222, maybe 223. It depends on where you're looking at there, but I just think
I climbed the ladder a little bit on that, Froton.
Oh, you did?
You
went shoots and ladders on us, Thor.
I did.
Oh, okay. You're getting wild. All right, well, I'll keep it brief, my friend. Indiana, 41 points per game in each of their last 5. UCLA, Maryland, Northwestern, and all of them 99% plus win expectancies. They're 5-1 against the spread. They're covering by 12.3 points per game. And they have a 33 point per game scoring margin. I mean, what do you want out of this Indiana team? They're explosive, 12th in gaining plays of 20 plus yards. It's all here. I don't see how a credible Nebraska defense, as good as they are going to be able to stop Indiana. And I think that's why that Raiola, passing looks so good. I did want to just tie up the previous game. I apologize. I didn't put through all my props. I like, in addition to Isaac Brown, I like Restrepo. Just came out this morning, 5.5 receptions for Xavier Restrepo against this Louisville defense. Lock it up. Give it to me, that 5.5 receptions. I also think because Louisville will be in a chase spot, that Ja'Cory Brooks, I mean, he's been bopping that 79.5. I think you got to take a speculative lean and play on that. But, the big boy on that in this game is the Restrepo receptions 5.5 over.
Yeah, the as far as I like that Restrepo one too. No. So like the Raiola over 220.5, the game script's going to be there, and Nebraska, that's their offense, right? Like, I mean, that's what it's become this year. They're going to have to return fire because you're not keeping Indiana off the scoreboard. So, it's going to have to go through the air. And I like pairing the Raiola over with Jamal Banks. I thought that was a pretty solid value. Found that at 40.5. I don't know. I think Nebraska is, they don't have a great running game as is. And Indiana has a pretty good run defense this year. I think the path for Nebraska is through the air. I'm staying away from the side on this. My line on this game is Indiana minus 5.1, but I don't know that I could, if I had to lean anywhere at this point at 6.5, it'd probably be to Nebraska, but I'm going to stay away from this side and just do props in that one. Boys, moving on to our next game. This is another noon kick in the ACC, and audience. After this game, we're going to answer questions. So any questions that you have on your bets today,
get them in.
Type them in, and we're going to open the mailbag here in a second. The Clemson Tigers hosting Virginia today. So I got this one earlier this week at 21.5. This line is down to Clemson minus 20 here. Moving. There's a couple books where it's 20.5, but 20.5. Gene, with that being said, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I've been so hesitant, and I don't know why, but I've been so hesitant to believe in Clemson, right? I don't know why. Like, I just keep on going, but they have quietly and under the radar kind of bounced back to the Clemson that we've seen over years, maybe not as dominant as the national championship years, but still one of those teams that go out there and get it done. However, like, this line it's a lot of points to give to Clemson when Clemson is not a prolific offense like that. I usually only want to give big lines to like lights out defenses who have offenses who will put the ball in the end zone, or prolific offenses that know how to run it up and kind of overwhelm the opposition. I don't think either of those things are there with Clemson. Is their passing game better? Yeah, but is it great? No. Is their running game better? Yeah, but is it great? No. Is their defense better? Their defense is good, but are they blanking people? I think Virginia's been better than I expected them to be this year. And I think that they go out there and they put up a fight against everybody, whether they get beat or not. So 21.5, especially, I look at that and I go, especially with that hook on the end, I'll take Virginia and I'll watch and see if they can keep this thing close.
I agree with you, Gene, and I'll add more to that in a second. But Froton, do you have any props on this one that you like? What do you see in this game?
Yeah, with Clemson, just in terms of game script, Clemson 4-2 against the spread, a 19 point per game scoring margin, but they're 4-2 to the under, which is a little surprising because when you think about this new look Clemson team, 11th ranked offense in the FBS, they rank 7th in EPA per play, 6th in yards per successful rush. They're really doing it in both phases of the game defensively, and then offensively, and on defense, they're exceptional on a per play basis, but they'll give up some big plays. 93rd in yards per successful play, 93rd in 20-plus yard plays. And you can get them on the ground, which is interesting because that's not what Virginia does. Last week, faded Kobe Pace at 57.5 rushing yards against Louisville. He didn't come anywhere near it.
Cash
Money. And the reason why is this Virginia D, keep in mind, good run D, and Phil Mafa's over 100 yards. He has to be every week. 11th in yards per successful rush, 26 in yards before contact, but they get ripped through the air. 111th in pass explosiveness allowed, 110th of completions of 20 plus, 97th in yards per dropback. I have a hard time with Virginia where they don't cash in their opportunities within the 20-yard line. What you get on their side of the field, the things that work for Virginia to get you between the 20s don't work when you get to the 20-yard line, you get to the red zone. It's a bad look against this Clemson defense who, as Gene has alluded to, you don't want to believe that the transfer-free Clemson team can really be this formed, but they are. I think you have to respect the over on the passing because it's simply the way that, Virginia, again, good against the run, bad against the pass. We've seen Clemson 265.5 on Klubnik. I don't think you can take an under. I think you got to go over. I also think Antonio Williams, who was injured last year, has come out and really asserted himself as the number one in that room. He's at 54.5, started the week at 45, which is just too low. 10 yards up, I think he probably still hits that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you hit the constitution of Virginia defense. Well, I still like Virginia to cover in this game. I liked it more when it was 21.5. I'll still take the 20 though. My line in this game is Clemson minus 15.9. Up till this point, Clemson they've looked good in most phases. But outside of that opener against Georgia,
Yeah, that one.
But they've had the one obvious weakness throughout, and that's the run defense. 93rd EPA per rush, 118th in explosion allowed. They're also Clemson defense is only number 80 in tackle success rate. This Virginia team, they push the tempo. They have the balanced offense with the dual threat quarterback. I think that they're going to be able to generate some yards here on Clemson through that. Maybe not through the air, but generate maybe some between Calandria, Anthony Coheed and Calandria Froton, and pace a little bit on the ground. And then the other thing I want to mention about the Virginia offense, their offensive line is good. 29th in successful run block percentage, number 25 in offensive line yards. Clemson's front on the other side is down from recent years. On the other side, Clemson ranks 115th in defensive line yards. So Virginia, when Virginia has the ball, they're probably going to win the battle of the trenches there. Something to keep an eye on there. And while the Cavaliers defense is not great, they have shown the ability to take away explosive runs and hinder passing efficiency just a little bit. You can get the explosion on them for sure. But if they can force some incompletions there, in addition to to taking away the long runs, maybe you force Clemson to work for it just a little bit more. The other point on this with the big spread that I wanted to bring up, I think it's notable. Tony Elliott and Dabo Swinney are like best friends. Like Tony Elliott played for Dabo, played wide receiver, and the wide receiver at Clemson, the Clemson wide receiver coach at that time was a guy named Dabo Swinney. Dabo drools all over. Whenever they ask him about Tony Elliott, he's like, oh, that's not a fellow coach. That's a brother. We're a family. He turns into Dominic Toretto from the Fast and the Furious.
It's all about family.
It's all about family.
Toretto.
And this it's life quarter mile at a time. And that's what I think it's going to be today. I don't see Dabo Swinney trying to, run this thing up by 4 or 5 touchdowns against his good friend, especially when Tony Elliott is finally doing well. They finally have the winning record. And Tony Elliott came into this year on the hot seat. I don't think Dabo wants to embarrass his good friend here. That's something at the end of the game that could come into play with this. Virginia, too, would certainly be open to coming in through the back door if it gets there. So I'm going to go with Virginia. I didn't have as many props on this one, although I do agree with Froton. The overs on the Clemson passing, and you could speculatively go over on Calandria's rushing, I think as well. The constitution of both defenses, I think, goes that way. Boys, let's open the mailbag a little bit earlier today. Let's hop into this. We want to open up a little more time for audience questions. So let's see what we got here. Our friend Snookslayer asks us Mean Green versus Paper Tigers, Mean plus 10.5. Anyone have any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I'm all over the over on that game. I don't know if anyone's going to stop anybody from scoring. I know that the Mean Green like to run up and down the field as fast as possible. And that's usually a recipe for success. I was saying with that, one thing that teams that play with pace have to worry about is the recoil from the pace, right? It's not is when everything's firing, because you score fast when that pace is really working for you. But also what happens is when you don't, the opportunity for somebody to hit you with a quick strike comes into play. And I think that's why you see in those games, there's just points that end up happening like back to back to back to back to back. It's almost like rushes and floods of points. So I'm staying away from the spread on this, but I really like the over on this. I believe the over is at like 60 and a half, I believe.
It's in the mid 60s.
Is it in mid 60s now? Yeah. I'm gonna double check it and make sure, but yeah, I definitely like the over. I think this is a game that could be, somewhere north of 70, 75 points.
My line in this game is Memphis minus 9.5. That thing over 10. I would probably lean North Texas in that. Memphis's pass defense a little bit better than their run defense. So that's one thing to keep an eye on, because that you have to hold down that North Texas offense. North Texas is one of, I talk about lopsided defenses every week on the show, and we're doing the prop handicaps. North Texas is one of the most lopsided teams in the nation. 33rd SP plus offense, 122nd SP plus defense. To Gene's point, it's why you get shootouts every single time. North Texas, they want to turn it into a track meet in a basketball game, just go up and down. And, their offense is good, but yeah, they'll give it back to you every time. So should be a shootout, and maybe that's the way to go. But yeah.
Hey, Thor, just really quick, just so you know, on our bet tracker, I actually wrote, because I put this in earlier in the week. North Texas is ranked 13th in the nation in scoring offense. They also rank 117th in scoring defense. So like they giveth and they giveth every time. So they're gonna take it just as well as they give it.
Yeah, and to Gene's point on that, the average discrepancy of their games on the total for North Texas, almost 10 points per game over the total in North Texas games this year. That ranks 14th in the nation. And the 83, let's see, I think only one of the games has gone under, of the, what would it be, 5 of the 6. So, yeah, we both be on that one. Next question, our friend Mike Huseman asks us, Missouri is 24-point favorites at home against Auburn. Can War Eagle cover this on the road with their quarterback struggles? Certainly, I would think so. That's where I would be. Froton, you got any props on this game? You have any thoughts?
Dude, there really aren't many props available in this game, to be honest with you. I think it was a case where the books are a little nervous about our boy over there piloting Auburn. Your boy, should I say, Peyton Thorne, a very profitable friend of yours. And with Missouri, I mean, dude, I don't have I know Missouri is, they're 5-1.
Correction, 4-point favorites. Missouri,
yes, 4 point. I was about to say 24 point. Like what?
Yeah,
no, 4 point.
Smash it. Play it right now.
Missouri, they're covering they're not covering. They're 2-4 to the under is what it is. Minus 4.5 points per game to the under point per game. I think I see a slog here. Auburn's a better defense, and we've talked about it a little bit before. The Hugh Frey, the turnovers are just appalling for Auburn. But on a down-to-down basis, they're a decent defense, and they can actually, slow the game down. I like the under. I think you get a slog here. Neither team has been impressing me offensively. Auburn likes to make mistakes. Give me the under on this team. I don't trust either of these offenses.
I don't know what's broken with Missouri's offense, but I saw someone had asked us about Luther Burden.
It's Cook. It's Brady Cook, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, there's just something off there. Logman asked us before, you guys liking our boy Luther Burden today. I don't trust Brady Cook. I no longer trust the coordinator there. I don't know what they're doing. And Luther Burden is pouting on the sidelines every game. Something appears off with that Missouri team. This is an opportunity for Hugh Freeze to pull off an upset. In reality, I don't know how big of an upset it would actually be, on paper, of course. But Auburn coming off the bye, Missouri, again, something has looked off with that team. Missouri had this terrible strength.
They can't hit big plays. They don't hit big plays at all.
Yeah. I mean, they had a lot of guys back. They lost Schrader, but they had a lot of the obviously Burden was back and Brady Cook and whatnot. But that thing is off, and the coordinator changes there have not helped either.
And they haven't played anybody either.
The
Murray
one time
State, Buffalo,
they got
BC,
slapped around in college.
And then Vanderbilt took them to the limit. Probably should have won that game. The game was a coin flip. And they got emasculated by Texas A&M. Just destroyed by that awesome defense with the Aggies, Elko. I mean, I got to see something out of this Missouri team where I start backing them. They haven't beaten anybody.
Our Stews asks us, good morning, fellas. Good morning. Our Stews, hope all as well. Do you guys like a particular side in Arizona State, Cincy? Thanks as always, guys. We spoiler alert, we like some props in that game. Maybe we'll save those for later. So I'll just ask you guys to his question. Does anyone have a lean on the side of that game? Wait, and for the audience out there, we're getting Jeff Sims.
Yeah, exactly. I am
getting Jeff
leaning
Sims.
Cincinnati. I know that this defense, outside of the Godfather, Dante Corleone,
Yep.
dun, 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 dun. But this Cincinnati team, is it great? No. I mean, can they give up big plays? Oh, yes, in bunches. 131st. 10% of the plays defended are going for 20-plus yards. That's a horror show. 127th in yards per successful play. Defensively, this team has real problems. They can score. We love Brendan Sorsby. You've heard a lot of Brendan Sorsby from us. But, man, I don't know if they can stop anybody on defense. But that's okay because they're playing Arizona State. And Arizona State doesn't have a credible QB like Sam Levitt. I've been impressed with what I saw from him, at least in his running ability, his escapability. But now it's Jeff Sims. I mean, the retread of all retread quarterbacks, Jeff Sims. He single-handedly cratered that Nebraska passing offense last year where they had to go to Heinrich Harburg. Bro, have you watched Heinrich Harburg? No. You're not going to see him this year. He's not going to be taking any snaps anywhere this year. I can't back Arizona State and Jeff Sims. I just can't do it.
No, it would be Cincinnati or nothing. Because Levitt, the starting quarterback for Arizona State, out, and there's going to be people that aren't aware of this that turn on the TV and see that Jeff Sims. They're going to be like, "Who? Jeff Sims?
What?"
Later today, yeah, he's back, folks, and we are here to profit off it. More on that later. The other thing I'd say. The Cincinnati run defense is terrible. That is where, so I'm over on the Scatabo. But on the other side, Cincinnati, Sorsby, to your point, they're going to be able to throw in Arizona State. Arizona State's pass defense is not good. Their run defense is good. It's good. You could consider an under on Kiner, I think, if you wanted. Sorsby through the air, I think he's going to do whatever he wants. And this Cincinnati team, I don't know if they're good or not. I think they're going to get to 5-2 today, and the schedule opens up decent. They could be a little bit frisky there down the stretch. Our boy Satterfield, a good second year there. Jacob Hears asks us Kentucky money line. Anyone have any thoughts on Kentucky?
Yeah, I got some thoughts. Right, I've got some thoughts. Like, what? Wholly inconsistent. Like. Showing up, Batman. I can't trust, if I'm being honest, I can't trust Kentucky. They are just they're too wishy-washy for me. I think they're live in every game because they can find a way to win it, but they can also find a way to lose it. And those are not the type of teams that I like to put my money on, is teams that'll flip you either way. And so for me, I would say stay away, but they are live every game because they do play good defense on occasion.
So I don't have any action in this game, but I would actually, my lean would be the opposite. It would be the Florida money line. That line right now, Florida +2 mostly across the market at home against Kentucky. Now, of course, Graham Mertz out for the season, but DJ Legway, he had already started to get the experience there. And obviously he's going to be the guy through the end of the season. Florida, they've shown a little bit of fight here. We're at 3-3. The Tennessee game, we were on Florida in that one, 16.5-point underdog. Florida probably should have won that game. Tennessee was able to come back there at the end. Florida led for most of it. They'd be 4-2 right now if they had, with the opportunity to get to 5-2 here. But we'll see if Billy Napier can end up holding on to save his job. But this is, of course, another must-win game for Florida. We have. After this, so Florida goes on bye next week, and then it's Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss before they get their FCS team. Oh, excuse me. They're at Florida State the last week. Close enough. Florida State. Man, that was a fun game last night. That was beautiful. Falling to 1-6. We got some freebie props in that one too. The Brock Glenn over 0.5 interceptions was. Boy, was that good fun. Good fun on a Friday night. Carlos Javier asks us thoughts on Colorado money line to upset Arizona. That's a fun prop game. Froton or Gene, you have any thoughts on that one? Anyone have any action on that one?
I don't even think that's an upset at this point, the way Arizona's playing. We got
correct.
Takario Davis is questionable. Their CB2 also questionable. Like, you're playing against Colorado with your top 2 potential cornerbacks out, and Takario Davis is a first-round caliber cornerback. You know, they don't have him. Who is stopping Colorado? Travis Hunter or no Travis Hunter? And, you know, that's where we're at. I can't back Arizona the way this team's playing with Brent Brennan taping things over the practice facilities. So, you know, anybody intrepid minds can't see people practicing or working out. You don't know who's going to play, who isn't. I don't know. I don't know if I'm buying what's happening over there culture-wise.
Anytime the coach does this stuff to try to keep the information away, I always get a little bit suspicious. It's like, what are you hiding? Just go out there and you know, you can game plan them and then go out there and execute. Like the shenanigans with the practice, I always find it funny. It was like Lincoln Riley at Norman the last year when they put up the paper over the dorm windows so they could oversee the practice field, because he didn't want people to know that he had benched Rattler for Caleb Williams that year. And then someone on the student newspaper went to the top of the building there where he could get a vantage point, and he found out anyway. And that kid was the one that ended up reporting that to the world. It's so stupid. Yeah, it's so dumb. Stop doing it.
Meanwhile, Colorado, you can pretty much see everything that happens with their program, because they got 5 or 6 people live streaming and blogging and putting up YouTube videos. They don't give a darn. Like, they don't care at all. Like, you can see what they're doing. They're still going to go out there and do it. And I think that what Froton said was spot on. Whether they have Hunter or not, we saw just how deep this wide receiving group goes last week when they lost 3 of the dudes and they were still out there chucking it around like it was going out of style. So I think that what you're going to see here is a Colorado team that has an opportunity to win regardless of what's going on. I don't think it would be an upset, but if you're going to give me 2.5, and Thor, you know it because I've said it before, anytime a road team is getting 2.5, I think that they're really saying that they believe that road team's going to win. So that's what I'm rolling with.
For sure. Yeah. I would probably lean the Colorado way too. My favorite prop in that game was Will Shepherd.
I'm on it too. Done.
His receiving yards. Yeah. It was in the low 40s. That is, it's, you know, we talk about this with how the sportsbook set these lines. It becomes like the average of your, you know, last 5 games or whatever is like the baseline. They don't adjust it much. Beginning of the season, Shepherd, he had transferred over from Vanderbilt. You're trying to ingratiate yourself into this receiving core that has arguably the best player in the nation leading it, and Travis Hunter. Jimmy Horn had come back. And then Gene was mentioning how deep it was. There was a couple games where, you know, at the beginning in early September where he was ingratiating himself in. The numbers were a little bit lower. Last 2 games, they have started to throw it to him a lot more. And he's a downfield guy. He's a guy with good ball skills, well-built guy. And that's the element that he is giving that offense. And they need it, because that's how you can open up the intermediate space to hit guys like Travis Hunter on the hands and then have them run around and stuff like that. But Jimmy Horn, certainly. So that line is set too low. And Travis Hunter, he is going to play. They announced that. So we are going to get him. Jimmy Horn is going to be playing as well. I think it's the Miller kid who came in last week when all the other guys were going down. He's hurt. And then there was one other one that's going to be out for a little bit longer.
Horn might be out. You know, we know about Hunter, Omari, and Miller. I forget maybe somebody else in, but Shepard's healthy, ready to go, dialed in, and he's ripped. He's gone over 59 yards for the last 5 games.
The other thing, people might be surprised about this, you know, just looking at the numbers or just having watched that team from afar. Shepard actually leads that team in wide receiver snaps. His role ain't going anywhere, and they're starting to give him more targets with his downfield thing. He might only need 2 catches to get over that number because of the game that he plays. So like that one. Our next question, Nando DeFino, my boss. Hey, boss. Asks us, if Ash and Jeansy went to Colorado, what would their national title odds look like?
Nando,
that's an interesting
up,
hypothetical.
What's up? You might, with NIL the way it is, you never know. It might not be hypothetical next year. I think that they would be considerably better, except he doesn't play defense, right? Like, he doesn't play defense, and they still have some holes defensively that they would need to shore up in order to be a national title contender. But it would be very sexy if a guy who is used to breaking tackles like Gene T was over there, because we've seen that their running backs who have some breaking tackle ability have been able to start to navigate their way through an offensive line that's still trying to figure it out.
For sure. Yeah. Probably not national title contenders, but I was thinking about in terms of the best offenses we've seen in college over the last 10, 15 years. And the one that always is at the top of your head, it's 2019 LSU.
2019 LSU.
Yeah. Yes. With Gene T, I don't think Colorado's offense would be quite at that level because we've never really seen anything like that. It's hard, though, thinking about other offenses that you would put over it at that point. Like there's not too many. So yeah, and I can't wait for obviously Gene T end of the season is going to be going to the NFL. Well, it's going to be a first round pick. We'll see about that. I also found it humorous that Travis Hunter was trying to compare his Heisman candidacy to Ashton Gene T earlier this week. Travis, maybe compare your NFL contract to him here in the spring, but be a bit more favorable. You know, I don't know. Gene T right now, of course, the favorite in the Heisman market.
My issue with Colorado and with this hypothetical is they have a 52% total blown block rate. That is 133rd in the country. I don't know how it isn't the worst, but I mean, there's two teams worse than that. That is a horror show. How are they going to fix this offensive line to be able to make them run? I know Gene T is legitimately supernatural, but man, I don't know what he's going to do. Yards before contact, yards per carry before contact, offensive line, they rank 129th. So he will be having, I mean, he's going to be getting ripped in the backfield often.
Don't matter.
If this hypothetical were to happen, I still think, national title, probably not. College football playoff, now we're in play with Genty.
Did you just do the Jim Mora with that inflection?
Yeah, I didn't even mean it. It's natural. It's innate to me now.
DeMonte Dixon, our friend. Hey, DeMonte, he asked us, got to hear about this LSU Arkansas game. I don't think we have that on the schedule, so appreciate a question about that.
Better.
What do we like at 2.5 on this? Thanks. Thoughts on LSU Arkansas, boys?
I'll tell you what I like. I mean, on the props front,
yeah.
I don't see how you can take an under position on Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, he's gone over 3 every single game. I don't know what you want here.
To the moon for Nuss.
I've been driving the Nuss bus as much as anybody, but God, you're going to give us Arkansas here? Arkansas, you saw what Oklahoma State did to Arkansas. Oh, we saw Oklahoma State last night. That Oklahoma State team put up 38 on Arkansas. What do you think LSU is going to look like? This game is, get ready for the overscript. It's coming. Wheels up. Give me that over on Nuss, 303.5. Yeah,
I agreed on that. I also like the over on the game. My system's got this thing around 60 in the market. The last thing I saw, mid 50s. Let me get an updated one on that. And the line on this one, 2.5 across the market. Although right now, Arkansas, of course, being the home dog. Although at MGM +3 is -120. If you want to look that way, the total on this game, so 56.5, 57. So it's up a little bit. I would go over that. Arkansas's pass defense is not going to be able to tamper down the Nuss bus and that receiving core that he has. Tremendous job they did restocking that, and of course Mason Taylor's emergence. And then on the other side, LSU's pass defense is not good. They need to get to the quarterback and take him down in order, to just not get absolutely shredded. Taylon Green should match up a little bit better there, and Bobby Petrino's play calling to sort of cleverly get away from that. Anything that you're not schemed away from it, Taylon Green's legs can take you away from it. I think Arkansas hit some explosive plays here. One of the other props that I really like in this one is the Satanga, the receiver for Arkansas, over his number. I thought there was pretty good value there. He was 40. Let me see what that was. 40.5 against that crappy LSU pass defense. I like that. Arkansas is going to have to throw. I think I would lean towards the home dog here. My line in this game is LSU -1. So I would probably lean that way, but the over as well, and we like some overs in the.
You know what's wild about this game? This opened at -9 LSU. We're at 2.5 now. I mean, over a 7.5 point drop from its cold open. Pretty wild.
So someone got fired on that, just like they got fired on that Peyton Thorne rushing total a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I mean, right there, no doubt here.
Ryan Sinote asks us, Utah State 78, no way, right?
Utah State.
The
that defense for Utah State is one of my favorites.
Is an abomination. Yeah.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Abomination. So Utah
State is
State
a pleasure to watch from a fantasy point perspective. A little college fantasy, let's put it that way.
Yeah, one of the craziest totals you'll see. That's what he's referring to in that game with Utah State hosting New Mexico with the total. It's you don't see that often, Gene, do you?
No, I think there may have been one total last year where it got super high like that, and I still took it, and I think they actually covered. I can't remember what the game was, but it was just two teams that have no regard for defense whatsoever. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think one of the things, and this is just some betting like logic that I like to use. I like to pass on. I really love to just watch and monitor the teams who can't play defense at all. Right. And just smash the teams that they're playing, on a week by week basis. So if you paid attention to Kent State, and if you paid attention to Ball State, Ball State and Kent State, the two worst scoring defenses in the country, you can make a lot of bread that way. And I think it similarly when you're looking at teams like this, it's a great way to kind of get some money out there.
Utah State, New Mexico looks at that Ball State Kent State game with the hold my beer. The SP, so SP plus 133rd defense in the nation. In other words, the second worst in the nation is New Mexico, 134th, the worst, Utah State. By the per play numbers, we have the two worst defense in the nation here, and the offensive ball can do something. At 78, I don't know, but I don't know if I could go over that number. It's so ridiculously inflated and taxed and whatever. But yeah,
you can't take an under though.
Can't take the under.
Yeah, Utah State has allowed 48, 38, 45, 62, and 50 points over their FBS opponents. Unbelievable.
That is crazy.
Unreal. All right, we'll get back to the audience questions a little bit later on. And we're, just as a reminder, we're going to be bringing up Mike Bainbridge here at the top of the hour, talk DFS, talk props. So, we'll keep asking the questions because we'll open the mailbag again about 20, 30 minutes here. But we're going to talk about three more games later in the day. Before we do, Alabama travels to Tennessee. Tennessee, 2.5 point favorite. 2.5 point underdog, home underdog in the market right now. Gene, who do you like in Alabama, Tennessee today?
Man, it's been crazy to watch both of these teams kind of come back down to earth, right? I think that it's a tough test for Tennessee because their offense has just kind of been out of whack the last few games. This, we were seeing the growing pains, which we're seeing the growing pains over there. But Alabama hasn't looked like the Alabama. I think that this is a game that Alabama should win because I think that they have more bullets in the gun than Tennessee does. But Tennessee at home, if they get a quick start or if they have some success early, that fan base could like lift them to playing above where I think they may be able to play today. For me, I guess if I'm going to pick a side, I'm going to roll with the Tide, but I don't feel necessarily the most like the greatest about this game because I think both of these teams have showed us a little bit of waffling over the last few games. But I think that Alabama believes that they can be Alabama. And so leaning with that belief, I'll go with the Tide.
I have to correct myself. This thing is -3 across the market now. Froton, do you have any thoughts on Alabama, Tennessee, or any bets on this one?
Yeah, as we know with Tennessee, and we talked about this, their rush defense is simply the best in the nation. I don't want to hear any other arguments. They simply are. It's just how it is. Well, my concern with them is, you have a first-year quarterback with Nico, redshirt freshman, and with first-year QBs, what's really important is just them being comfortable and being able to be settled in and being able to, work at a consistent pace, not be sped through his progressions. And what I've seen time and time again with Tennessee is he's getting pressured a lot, and when you had Hendon Hooker in his 6th year, that's one thing, but this is a first-year starting QB. I mean, you look at the pressure, sacks per pressure, 28% for Tennessee. That's 115th. Their blitz down sack rate, 131st. Blitzes are getting home 21% of the time. That is the 4th worst in the country. And when teams know that they're going to pass, 11% sack rate on passing downs. That's 111th. I have concerns about how Tennessee and their young neophyte quarterbacks still learning is to be able to handle the Kane Womack pressure-oriented defense. I have to lean Alabama here.
You missed a golden opportunity to use Nico fight there.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad, buddy.
I like a couple of props in this one. I like the Dylan Sampson under 99.5 or so rushing yards. Alabama has the solid run defense, and even though my system has this game about a pick-em, I think I would lean Alabama. So just game script there could help us out as well. And then I went under on both Brew McCoy and Squirrel White. That Tennessee passing offense appears to be broken. And, it's funny in the past, people would, how do you defend that hypo offense? That would be one idea. But then on the other idea, especially during NFL draft season, we would all call it a Mickey Mouse offense. And so it's like, how can it be a Mickey Mouse offense, but be impossible to defend? This year, defensive coordinators are actually going to lengths to find ways to stop it. And they're stopping some of the gimmickry, right? Like Tennessee, it's sort of like the old Baylor offenses with RG3, where they spread the field as far as it can go. They want the 2 boundary receivers with their feet dang near on the chalk. So you get that stuff wide, and then they're running tempo on you, and they're hoping to get the numbers. And basically the numbers that your defense has on each side of the ball, that's going to dictate what the play is and then where the ball is going from a couple different options. Defensive coordinators are figuring that thing out. Both, how do we keep enough resources back so they don't get the free one-on-one advantageous looks? But then also to Froton's point, what does that leave you with? With Tennessee, leaves you with the 5 offensive linemen. Sometimes they leave the running back. They don't have a lot of numbers back there. You have a first-year starting quarterback. So they're also, defensive coordinators have figured out also how to get that blitz home. So and that's been tough because the quarterbacks in that system, they're taught, do this, do this, do this. If you see this pre-snap, and that stuff is starting to get discombobulated in their heads, and the different ways that they can, the defense are disguising coverage looks. That's a tough scene, and that's why Tennessee has to run so much. Yeah, but I don't know how that's going to work in this game. If a team starts pulling ahead of them, you're going to have to throw more. I see Nico making some mistakes in that scenario.
We haven't seen them be able to come from behind. We don't know if they have that in their bag yet.
Correct. Yeah, I wanted to mention to you guys too, the projections I toss out, everything, my lines, my power rankings, all that stuff. You can get that FantasyLife. The code Thor20 gets you 20% off the FantasyLife Plus. That stuff is all on tier 2. Comes out every Monday morning. The updated win projections, all that stuff. You can see your team's projected lines for every game the rest of the year on that as well. Boys, we have to get through each of these last 2 games in about 5 minutes apiece. So let's go quick hitter. Michigan traveling to Illinois, 3-point favorite for the Wolverines in the market right now. This one kicks off at 3:30 Eastern this afternoon. Gene, who do you like in this one?
I'm personally, I'm staying away from this game, but I think it's an interesting game to watch because Illinois has been a fighter all year. Michigan, we know what their limitations are. Does that rear its ugly head again? Does this become another one of those games where Michigan lets things go? If I'm picking a side, I'll take the 3 points for Illinois at home.
Froton, any props or do you like anything on the side here?
Yeah, there's not really a lot of props you can really mess with in this game, unfortunately. You have the injuries to Caden Fegan. You have obviously the turnover at quarterback with Michigan. They don't allow you to line Michigan wide receivers. Are there any?
Well,
Can
Froton, in fact, I got 3 of them. Let me toss them by
let's go.
And you tell me what you think.
Obviously, Loveland is always an option.
So I'm going under on Jack Tuttle, 181.5. I love that one. Michigan's passing offense absolutely stinks. And here's the thing. Michigan's on the road in this game. Illinois' run defense stinks. Illinois' pass defense is really good. And it has been for years. It still is. They have this split there. What have we seen to justify a line of 181.5? This should be a Cade McNamara line, but they're lining him like double that. So under on the Tuttle. I also love the over on Kalel Mullings at a value at 81.5 rushing yards here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
81.5.
81.5. The Illinois run defense is not good. Yeah. And Michigan's just going to keep this thing on the ground. I also think, and this goes to the point of both Mullings and then the Tuttle ones, I think you're going to see Alex Orji a bit off the bench. Last year when they had JJ McCarthy, they were bringing Orji to run around. Orji, he couldn't be the starting quarterback because he literally can throw. But I think you're going to see him off the bench. That's going to help out the running attack too. Illinois' run defense not going to be able to hold up against that. And then, Froton, typically I've gone over on Loveland in spots where I could, over the last year and a half. Mm-hmm. This one, his receiving yardage, 55.5.
It's way up there.
No,
it would be more receptive.
Chance.
Yeah,
no chance. I'm going under on Colson Loveland. So we're pairing up the Tuttle Loveland unders and the Mullings over. Boys, the last one in the game of the day before we end up bringing on Mike Bainbridge here at the top of the hour. Texas and Georgia. Wow, we got a treat this evening. Texas, this line was opened at 3 or 3.5. And it in the meantime, it's slowly gone up, although you could still get the 3.5, I think up until like Wednesday or something. Now, looking at this thing live in the market, half the books have it at Texas minus 4.5. Half the books have Texas minus 5. The late money definitely coming in on the Longhorns. Gene, do you agree with that? And how do you see this game?
I want Georgia to prove to me that they trust their offense enough to go out there and try to win them games. That's really what I want to know. In these big games versus these powerful schools, show me that you can trust your offense well enough to go win you a game. I don't think they can. I don't think it's in Kirby Smart's DNA. It's something that Nick Saban had to learn, and when he did, he started winning more national championships. And if Kirby Smart wants to be in there, he's going to have to figure it out as well. I'll take Texas. I'll lay the 3.5 because I think ultimately, if this thing comes down to whose offense can put the ball in the end zone, I'll trust Texas offense over Georgia's offense.
Froton, do you agree with that? And do you have any props on this game?
Oh, yeah, I got props. I think Texas is going to be able to score. I don't have really any reservations about that. As we've discussed in the past, and we will do it once again, this Georgia defense is not the 2022 and 2021 versions of the Georgia defense. Are they good? Yes. But, man, you want to talk about passing? Okay, 129th in adjusted completion rate, 76%. 66 in passing success rate, 72nd in yards per dropback, 92nd in explosive plays allowed through the air. This Georgia defense, again, to reiterate, not 21-22. And that obviously means Quinn Ewers, Texas, they're going to be able to throw pretty much at will. Now, what that means on the other side, and a prop that I think it's an absolute lock happening, Carson Beck, 33.5 pass attempts. Okay, let's go through their last 3 games. September 28th, Bama, 50 pass attempts against Alabama. Beck threw for 439 with a 3-to-3 ratio. I know you love that, Thor.
I do.
Auburn, they didn't have to do anything. So he completed 23 of 29. He completed 80% of his passes for 240 yards. Didn't have to do anything against Auburn. However, Mississippi State last game, 41-31. Michael Van Buren went and dropped bombs on this Georgia offense. We're just seeing Michael Van Buren for the first time. They put up 31 on him. Carson Beck throws 48 passes for 459 yards. and 2 interceptions, of course. How are they not going to have to throw the ball against Texas? You're going to tell me that they're going to be up early, they're going to be running the ball with Trevor Etienne just at will on Texas, and they're just going to salt the game away? Because that's the only way you're getting under 33.5 pass attempts by Carson Beck. This is going to be a competitive affair. They're going to have to press the pedal to the metal. And just like against Mississippi State and Alabama, he's throwing for over 45 pass attempts. This is outrageous. 33.5 up.
Yeah, I like Texas a lot in this game. I think they match up well. You guys are mentioning some of the reasons for that. Froton went through Georgia's pass defense. The whole defense has regressed for sure, and they're still getting credit for what they were the past couple of years, but that defense has regressed. I think they're 10th or 11th overall in SP+, but the pass defense in particular, like Georgia is still solid against the run. They're still good against the run. The pass defense, though, you got issues there. They lost guys in the secondary. They've had coverage breakdowns all year long. Froton went through some of those stats, so I won't reiterate them. But the Longhorns, obviously, they can throw the ball real well. Last week, Quinn Ewers, keep in mind, he was coming in off the injury. He had missed some of the games. He was working back in, knocking off the rust. Where you beat Georgia is through the air, and Texas certainly has the weapons. I expect a huge game from Quinn Ewers. I thought there was really good value on his passing yardage at 254.5. Love that one. The over on Ewers. Also going over on the Carson Beck interceptions. Froton's point is exactly right. Georgia's rushing offense is way down, so Georgia has to pass. And what Georgia liked to do against the worst opponents was have Carson Beck do like the quick hitters right after the snap. The ADOT was super low, and his numbers with the throws around the line of scrimmage were great. It's against some of these better opponents where Georgia, they're one-handed, and then they have to have the full passing game and get more aggressive with it. Where you have seen Carson Beck make turnovers, you can fool Carson Beck. I think it's 8-5 TDI and T ratio over since they opened SEC play. And Texas has the awesome pass defense. They're top 2 in passing success rate, yards per dropback, EPA per dropback, adjusted net air yards, marginal explosion, yards per successful dropback, yada, yada, yada. So I like the Beck over to throw an interception. And one other point, Froton, you were talking about the Georgia defense. They're also going to be without their all SEC linebacker, Smale Munden, again. So you got issues there on defense, tough scenes. Gene, let's go to your FCS play of the day, and then we're going to bring up Bainbridge.
Yeah.
And by the way, Gene hit the 3-leg parlay last week.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cashed that Dakota's gold rush. And it's a gold rush again this week because it's just it's the biggest game in FCS going on this week. It's Alabama, Georgia. It's Texas, Georgia. It's whoever you think are the 2 best teams in the FBS. Just drop it down to the FCS, and they happen to play in the same conference, and they must play each other every year because that's how they get down. North Dakota State, the legendary program that ran roughshod over the FCS for a better part of a decade, against South Dakota State that said, "Hey, hold our beer. We're coming for your spot. We're telling you to it." They run their program like an FBS program. They have people that are doing mind consultants with their kids. It's a fantastic thing. They both play each other. They're the 2 best teams in the FCS, and it's not even close. Like, they're the 2 best teams. They will most likely be playing in the championship game again this year because they're both the best teams in the FCS. So who do you choose right there? You don't choose anyone. You sit back and you go, this is going to be an over game. Why? Because they both know each other so well. That doesn't manifest itself defensively. It manifests itself offensively because they know at some point they've got to score points in order to win the game. Every year over the past 5 years, this game has gone over, and this year that game is at 51.5 points. I will take the over. South Dakota State, North Dakota State. Cash that money because this is going to be a fantastic game to watch tonight. Also, sidebar, if you like a little more Dakota's gold rush, South Dakota minus 17.5, you might want to sprinkle a little of that on there as well if you want to double it up.
Wow, okay. I'm going to be following this time. You've been crushing these FCS plays, and I don't go down to the FCS, so I'm following you, Gene. next up, let's bring up the godfather of college fantasy football, Mike Bainbridge of
Bruno.
the CFF site and Fantasy Points. Mike does a great job with projections and the college fantasy football stuff. It folds directly into DFS and player props. They do a great job at that site every single week of projecting out the individual player stats. We want to open up the mailbag first, though, and then we'll get into the DFS stuff. We saved some of the prop questions for this, and Bainbridge can hop in on these too. Bainbridge, how you doing this morning?
Doing good. I know we're getting into the mailbag portion of this section. Thor, I wanted to ask the host a question. How does it feel for looking forward to tomorrow with the Minnesota Vikings going to be getting exposed on national television?
Here we go.
Against the reigning NFC North Division champions.
We'll see who gets exposed there. But either way, I feel like both of us are going to be richer before that game starts after the events of today. So hopefully, one of us can dry our tears with the cash we're going to make today. YGG Young Walt asks us, can Georgia Tech cover 14.5 at Notre Dame? Haynes King is out for that game. I don't know. It's Pyron time. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? I'm staying away because of the quarterback stuff.
Absolutely.
I don't think you can take a position on Georgia Tech with Zach Pyron in there. He's been serving as like the de facto Wildcat quarterback sort of a thing. When they need short yardage situation, they bring in Pyron. Goal line, he's actually got a touchdown or two. So that is really his core competency, his ability to grind out yards on the ground. So I don't know how well that's going to work against Notre Dame. Yes, Benjamin Morrison is out, but this is still, Gray on the other side is an excellent, Christian Gray is an excellent corner as well. I think that is a bad look for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
Wisdom Warriors asks, are the Baylor Bears live on the money line? Baylor traveling to Texas Tech today. Line 6.5 last time I saw it. My line's a little bit beneath that at 5.6. I'm staying away on the side in that game. One interesting thing to watch for there's wins in Lubbock today, and Baylor has a pretty solid pass defense. So that could be one thing making Texas Tech a little bit more one-handed. That you could think about there. And maybe fading some of the passing. Check the forecast first because that thing changes all the time. But that's been the forecast for it. But I'm not playing the side. Did any of you guys got any action on Baylor Texas Tech?
Pre-wind, I definitely had a lean on Sawyer Robertson. Opened up at 233.5 passing yards. I mean, you're just daring us to take Sawyer Robertson on that particular line against
Sawyer's going to scramble around. He's going to do a scramble thing.
He's going to have to because, Texas Tech, they breed shootouts, 44-41 last game, whatever it was. So, it's tough to take an under, but then here we are in the weather factor. It just complicates matters. But
I was going to add to that. I also like Robertson over before the wind factor, of course. I know he's juiced to the over at 33.5 passing attempts this week as well. The one thing I don't think any of us expected to hear this regular season that Baylor was going to be an air raid offense this year. Like that's what their beat writer called them essentially. So, Robertson's throwing the ball 40 times a game the last 2 weeks, so they can't run the football at all. So if wind isn't end up being a factor, then I like those Robertsons over as well.
Yeah, it's amazing what offenses can do when they get rid of Jeff Grimes. I'm sorry, Thor. I'm sorry.
Did you have to? We almost got through this whole episode without a Jeff Grimes reference.
Well, look at how good Baylor's doing without Jeff Grimes.
Oh, gosh. I can't talk about it. And by the way, Sawyer Robertson from Lubbock grew up idolizing Mike Leach, signed with Mississippi State so he could play for Mike Leach. Obviously, the tragedy that happened with Coach Leach, and it set Sawyer Robertson about his way. But he's been studying, and they ran the air raid in his high school. So that kid's sort of well accustomed to that. And kudos to him for getting on the field and playing well so far. A couple prop questions. I'm gonna lump these together. Ashton asks us, Scatterbo going to go crazy with the backup quarterback Jeff Sims playing today. And DJ V asks us, good morning, gents. You know the drill. Thoughts on over 0.5 interceptions for our boy Braden Locke today? Bainbridge, I'll start with you, and then we can kick it over. Thoughts on those two?
Yeah, no opinion on Braden Locke because I don't even look at that game because I can't bet Illinois props since they're playing Northwestern, unfortunately. And then on the what was the other one you mentioned? Sorry, Thor.
The Scatterbo over, I think low 90s with Jeff Sims playing today.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to ask Jeff Sims to throw the ball 30 times a game. I'm sure you guys have hammered that point home this episode. Maybe not. But
We
yeah,
will.
I mean, yeah, I think they have no other option this week but to go to Scatty Boo.
Oh,
It's
Boo.
Does Sims
Yeah.
have rushing numbers? What's Sims rushing numbers?
His rushing's in the mid-50s.
I would probably think that that's his best bet for like success today, right? Like especially with a guy like Scatterberg, you got to think there's some read elements that they're throwing in because that's going to lean into what Sims does best. I'd be interested to see about possibly throwing a little something on that Sims rushing right there.
Yeah, Sims is an NFL caliber athlete. Definitely not an NFL caliber.
Not a quarterback.
Yeah.
Not a quarterback.
He should switch positions. Historical Anomaly asks us, Bond injury worry you for the prop? Sound likely tonight. I think he's referring to me like in the Ewers one. No, I mean like
Isaiah Bond, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
obviously.
He's probable. He logged that full practice on Wednesday.
And that's what I'm expecting. But let's say, is that enough for me to not like the Ewers? No, I like the Ewers over either way.
Then we just get more Ryan Wingo, freshman sensation.
Yeah,
underrated. We hear a lot about Ryan Williams. Hear a lot about Jeremiah Smith.
Right,
Ryan Wingo is the next best thing right there in that wide receiver room for the freshman.
Yeah, Georgia's second. They've just had too many issues. So yeah, I love that Ewers over. Let's see. Do we have any other questions here? I think we're all caught up. So let's get into the DFS in that case. Bainbridge, let's start this thing off with. You want to start off with bargain bin today, or you want to start off with core plays? I'll leave it up to you.
Let's start with bargain bin because there were some mistakes made with the pricing again this week. We kind of talked about it with that Baylor Texas Tech game. Hal Presley has emerged as the wide receiver 1 for Baylor. Got double-digit targets in the last 2 weeks. And he's priced at 3,100, basically min pricing this week. So really like that as a cheap bargain bin option at receiver. And then
Bay doors, Hal. Sorry, that's a 2001 Space Odyssey reference.
And then moving to Illinois, running back Josh McCray will start ahead of Caden Fegan, who is out with injury, probably out for a couple of weeks in that Illinois backfield. McCray will get the start. He's 3,800, and he rushed for 100 yards last week. And the Michigan defense, unfortunately, Michigan defense, unfortunately for me, has not been up to par against the run or the pass, really. So despite having 2 first-round draft picks in the middle of that defensive line, just haven't really stopped the run up to their capabilities this year. So like those 2 plays as bargain bin options.
The mid-tier plays that you have for people.
Really like, shockingly, I kind of like the Auburn pieces this week.
Dude, let's go.
Starting with Jarquez Hunter, 5,100. He's had 70 or more rushing yards, I believe, in like 3 of the last 4 games. Missouri is fraudulent defensively, so really like Hunter as a play. And I think you can even go Peyton Thorne this week as well. He's only 6,600 as a dual threat quarterback, so kind of like that option. And again, we touched on it. Sawyer Robertson, as long as the wind is not a major factor, the volume is up for the Baylor passing game. They're down to like 2 running backs healthy in that backfield, and they can't run the ball at all anyways. And Roberts, as Thor talked about, Robertson can scoot a little bit too. So you can see him running the ball as well. So I like him as kind of that mid-tier quarterback option.
I guess you just looked up the weather report there. It's 16-mile-an-hour winds with 25-mile-an-hour gusts. So, when it comes to, in my opinion, when it comes to the pass game being affected, I look for the 20, sometimes even 22, depending. In terms of the wind factor, we're only at 16. We haven't hit that 20, but the 25-mile-an-hour gust could be an issue. Obviously, they're in Lubbock off the plains. Not as bad as what I was fearing there, being at 16. We'll see what happens at game time.
The core bill plays that you have today, Bainbridge.
Yeah, this one's interesting because on the show sheet, I put Kyle Monangai, 7,200. But when the Big Ten injury reports came out, he was listed as questionable, which he wasn't earlier in the week. So now he pops up on game day as questionable. You kind of worry about
That's ominous.
about his availability this week, but I'm just looking at my phone now. He is dressed and warming up. So you're taking a major risk, I guess, at this point, kind of playing him. There's no, indication if he's, 100%, 50%, what have you. Great matchup against UCLA, but and then there's some options around there if you want to spend up to Phil Maffa, obviously a great matchup against Virginia, or if you want to come down to 7,000 with Khalil Mullings, who is still the running back one for Michigan, so I wouldn't worry about that. So in that price range, if you don't feel confident with Monangai, there's some pivot options to go to.
I would go with Mullings. Yeah. Love Mullings today.
Michael, are you starting Kyle Monangai in CFB winning edge, CFF?
Am I facing you in that league?
I don't know. I'm sure I traded you Monangai in that league. I at least want to know if you're starting him.
I know. I have to. I like to play things safe when it comes to my college fantasy lineup, so I may pivot if I have another option there.
Good.
He is warming up
for y'all. Yeah, there you go.
And Bainbridge, you talk about Klubnik? Yeah,
I mean, what can you say at this point? 30 fantasy points per game over for the last 5, I believe. This is what we saw with your boy, Froton, Max Dugan, a couple of years ago. Under Garrett Riley. That second year in that offensive system is just taking off at this point. I think a lot of the weapons are kind of showing up here with Jake Brenningstool, Antonio Williams. So they're improved offensively as well. So I think it's just a baseline to start with Cade Klubnik as one of your quarterback options.
Love it. Before we get into our emptying the clip on player props, again, do the around the horn, Gene, other plays that you have today on the board that we haven't hit yet.
A couple things to look at. I was really I know we talk a lot of props, which is cool, but I was like, we don't really talk a lot about solo overs, and I think that sometimes there's just really juicy solo overs out there. Because people think they're going to blow a team out. But then what happens is that other team scores like a touchdown or maybe 2 touchdowns, and it forces that team to have to keep on, mashing on the gas. But I went and looked at a few plays that I thought was really good. Vanderbilt solo over today. I think that there's no way that they don't stay, over 40 plus points. Bowling Green solo over 37.5. Bowling Green and Vanderbilt are both playing Kent State and Ball State. If you haven't figured that out yet, they are the worst defenses when it comes to scoring in the FCS. In the FBS. I really like that. Tulane today is playing Rice. Their solo over is 37.5. Still trying to figure that one out. Those 3 teams know how to run the ball. And then obviously, Navy 16.5. Navy 16.5 today. As they come back off of a bye week, gotta love what they bring to the table. Just a few plays that I'm really on today. I think that those guys have an opportunity to clear pretty easy. I'm gonna make sure I be giving guys on the bet tracker more of my solo overplays, because I think that's a really awesome way to make a little bit of money off these solo overs out there.
Boys, let's get into the player props. Thought we break them up a little bit differently today, so it'll be easier for people out there to track us, because we just go bang, 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 bang during this section. So hopefully this will help people out there. Get your sports books open right now, folks, because the next 10 minutes we're gonna be giving you lots of bets. Let's start with the quarterbacks here. We'll do it like this. I'll toss out a couple, then we'll go to Bainbridge, then we'll go to Froton, and then we'll come back around to me. So we'll start out with quarterback, ones that we have not done yet. And I don't want to step on Mr. Froton's feet for at the end, so I'm not going to say that one. Although strong,
the magic one.
Strong agree. We'll get to the best bets after that, and that's what I'm referring to there. But other ones, Garrett Green, love his over 192.5 passing yards against Kansas State today. Kansas State does not have a good pass defense. Kansas State can stop the run. So can they neutralize that? Either way, I think West Virginia is going to get theirs through the air here. That's a reasonable number. The weekly Noah Fafita over a half an interception. You're going to be in a shootout with Colorado here. Noah Fafita, look at Noah Fafita's game log for folks out there. This is not a hard handicap. Take a look at that interception column going down. You only needs one. You get 60 minutes to get it. So in Colorado, the defense a little bit better this year, but they can pick off the ball. Had mentioned that Nussmeier won, and I'll toss out one more before kicking it over. And this one, Gene, don't fight me, please. Bryson Daly, his rushing line was set at 130.5. I don't know if I've ever seen a quarterback rushing total like that. It has not been it has been the opposite of profitable to fade Army in any way this year. Gene's been hitting them every single week. I like the under on Bryson Daly's 130.5 rushing yards against ECU. ECU has a terrible pass defense. They have a really good run defense. So I'm fascinated to watch that game. But let's kick it to the next guy for quarterback player props today. I forgot the order I said we were going.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Go ahead.
So I totally agree with Gene's side on Vanderbilt, but I would actually look at under 295 total yards for Diego Pavia. His rushing is ticked down from 61 to 55 over the course of the week.
I'm on the under of Pavia's passing. That's one was 228.5. I'm on that as well. Yeah.
Then it speaks to
he doesn't
even
throw
more
a lot
so.
of passes. They're not throwing that much. Under 25
Not when
pretty much every game.
And in the games where it's the crappy opponent, it's just they just run every time, and then they yank the starters early. I mean, Vanderbilt's actually decent now, so they can actually do that, and Ball State certainly applies.
Right.
So
they don't have a girl kicker anymore. Right.
And why are you going to beat up Pavia in this game against friggin' Ball State? I mean, like, this is the game to get Nate Johnson in, right? Or maybe even his backup from New Mexico State. Sorry, Bainbridge.
No, you're good. So, yeah, he's been dealing with a knee injury over the course of the week. So, no impact on his availability. But, yeah, I don't see him rushing as much. And if you really like the under on passing, I think total yards makes a whole lot of sense. I think you can get it at some place 295 or 290. I like both. We talked about Sawyer Robinson as well. I like the over there. And then one that's been moving a little bit here over the course of the week, and I've seen it even tick up a little bit more this morning. Kevin Jennings for SMU start off at 197. You can get him at 203.5. I think at some places now he's 204. Juice to the over there. Stanford is pretty good defending the run. Not the case against the pass. And Kevin Jennings has been kind of finding his footing here since taking over that QB1 job over Preston Stone. So I like his over at 203.5 passing yards this week.
Yeah, and I agree on that one. I agree on the Pavia one, agree on the Jennings one. They're on my list. Froton, other quarterback props that we haven't gotten to yet.
Well, luckily for you, Thor, even though I am a big Hall & Oates fan, your kiss is not on my list, buddy. That being said, quarterbacks are.
Because your kiss.
That's right. Thank you, Gene. Somebody else singing with me. Noah Fafita. He's on my list. And he's on my list for over 37.5 pass attempts. That thing hasn't moved at all week. It opens at 37.5. It stays at 37.5. 3 of the past 4 games he's thrown. All right, we'll go through the last 4. In Big 12 play, Mr. Fafita, last game, BYU, 52 pass attempts. Game before, Texas Tech, 49. Previous game against Utah. We know what happened in that Utah game. They didn't have, obviously, Cam Rising. They had Isaac Fredo Wilson out there, and they didn't have to do anything. So only threw 31 times. But against Kansas State, they lost 31-7, 42 passes. You're going to throw them at 37.5 pass attempts? Against Colorado? Good luck. And with that goes, obviously, I'm right there with Thor on the 0.5 interceptions over Noah Fafita. Got a lot of that. I'm going to lay off another Thor one, which is a quarterback, because you deserve it. Rocco Beck. Rocco's
Modern Life backed.
Rocco Rock. I don't know if you guys, any of the ECW fans out there, everybody knows about Public Enemy, and our boy Flyboy Rocco Rock took one of the most righteous beatings in the history of wrestling in the hands of Bradshaw. That being said, Rocco Beck has been awesome this year. And like Iowa State, quietly the number 9 team in the nation. It's like nobody even cares. But West Virginia last game lit them up for 265. Baylor the game before lit them up for 277. Didn't have to do anything against that decrepit Houston team. You can't even look at that. But against Iowa, 272. No offense, Thor. You're going to line Rocco Beck against UCF's pass defense at 232.5 yards? Let me go through UCF for you. 121st in passing success rate, 128th with a 69% completion rate, 121st in raw QBR allowed. They stink. Bad. 111th EPA per dropback. And UCF can stop the run. 6th in rushing success
defense.
rate. Yeah,
exactly.
Another lopsided defense. You're going to give me a 232 with Rocco Beck?
Love it.
I don't know what to tell you other than bang that.
Just a couple more from me. I went over on Avery Johnson's rushing yardage, 50.5. West Virginia, their run defense is terrible. Avery Johnson, we get a discount this week because last week I missed last week, one of the few weeks, but Avery Johnson got nicked up in that thing. He had taken a sack, then he takes some big hits, finishing negative yardage. So we get the discount this week. This is a tremendous matchup as far as on the ground for Kansas State and Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson, not a dual threat quarterback, a single threat quarterback. He just runs. And then the other one,
baby.
Speaking of quarterback rushing, I thought this line was absolutely insane. Cam Ward, they said his rushing yardage at 33.5.
Yeah.
What are you basing that on?
It started at 37. It started at 37.
Wow. What a joke. So Cam Ward, his career, so we'll go like right from the start. These are season-long rushing totals for Cam Ward in his 5 years at college. The 2 years at Incarnate Word in the FCS, 2 yards he finished with in a season, then 61 yards. Then the next 2 seasons at Washington State, 58, 144. He's at 161 right now. But you look at the game log, that he's had. This thing is inflated because the Virginia Tech game, he was scrambling around a bit, and a little bit in the USF one too. The Louisville run, again, that's the good thing. And getting after the quarterback, specifically with their pass defense, but the pass, if you beat the pass rush, you can get whatever you want there. This does not. I just don't understand that line. So yeah, I mean, based on historical precedent, based on the way the game script's going to go to attack that defense, I don't think you're going to see Cam Ward scrambling around a whole bunch. My other quarterback one is my play of the day, so we're going to move to the running backs. I'll just toss my two out quick that we haven't gotten to, and then we'll kick it over to Bainbridge. The Cam Scatterbo one, Cam Scatterbo, we already talked about that one. Over 91.5 rushing yards at Cincy. Love that one. Jeff Sims there. You have to hand off. And fortunately for Arizona State, Cincinnati's run defense stinks. So I think Scatterbo goes over. The other one, this is a Froton special. We missed last week on the Caden Durham receiving yardage. I think we get it this week.
We should have beat that.
It was a terrible beat. They had the completion, and we were over. I was already walking up to the window, and then the ref throws his flag and is like, He gave us
the poor officiating we've seen. That's top of the list.
Yeah, just yanks it off the board. Rip that winning ticket right out of our hands. But we're coming back with Durham. Bainbridge, any running back props for you?
That was a good read. Come back. Exactly. Yeah, baby, exactly. Come back.
I was looking over my list. I don't have a lot of running back plays this week, shockingly. My biggest one was last night, and Froton, we took the loss, unfortunately. It was Star Thomas, who just had 35 yards through 3 quarters and then just busted a 40-yard.
Star Thomas.
So that was my biggest play at running back.
88 on 85 and a half. Scumbag.
Right now, I think DJ Giddens at 9.5 receiving yards over is my best play for running back. I think all last year, he was probably lined at like 14, 15.5 receiving yards. He's gone over 20 in each of the last 2 games. Kansas State has nobody to throw to outside of Jace Brown and DJ Giddens, and maybe a little bit of Dylan Edwards, right? But their wide receiver 2 and 3s absolutely stink. I think they get DJ Giddens involved more in the passing game as they have the last 2 games. This West Virginia defense allowed 50 yards and 2 touchdowns to a similar player in Desmond Reed earlier in the year. So I like DJ Giddens over 9.5 receiving yards.
Froton running back props for you.
Yeah, we're going to go with Arizona State. As mentioned, we've talked about our boy Scattaboo a few times. Given that you have Jeff Sims in the backfield to start, whether or not he'll finish, that's anybody's guess. I think you're going to see a lot of Scattaboo here on the ground. I think you're probably going to see the Wildcat Scattaboo a lot. Pretty much, I don't understand why you wouldn't be handing it off to him. I like the 18.5 rush attempts over. I just think that's asking for it here in this script. There's going to be so much running. They're not going to throw the ball. Damon Claiborne, 84.5 rushing yards. They're playing UConn, who's been respectable, but man, he's been ripping that. We talked about
Dolores Claiborne, Froton.
Dolores Claiborne, you savage. Okay. Caden Durham, we mentioned. Devon Booth. Okay. All right. Mississippi State. Come on now. We know what happens against Texas A&M. We mentioned their defense earlier in terms of what they did to Arkansas. Now you got a Mississippi State who's just retooling a young quarterback in Vieran Buren and a split backfield with Johnny Daniels, not Jack Daniels, Johnny Daniels, and our boy Devon Booth. Now, that's a split situation. It's pretty much right down the middle between the two. And you're going up against Texas A&M's defense. They do not play around, okay? You got a split backfield with a limping team that is pass heavy with Mississippi State is going to be down, and you got to get them 52.5. No way. Give me under Devon Booth, 52.5 rushing yards, and take it to the bank.
Moving to receivers. You guys probably know we're fading out there in the audience. We're fading the Arizona State passing attack pretty hard today. So
they're listing them real low though. Like Guillory's 18, 17, somewhere in that range. Like Mateo's like 13. They're testing us.
So I went under on a couple longest reception props. Melquan Stovall at 10.5. Longest reception. I went under that. They don't really throw to Melquan Stovall anyway.
No. One catch a game, maybe?
His total yardage. I mean, that longest reception is not too far under that. So I went under that. And I mentioned Satanga before, and Isaiah Satanga over 40.5 receiving yards against LSU today. And then the Will Shepherd one over 42.5. The last two games against UCF and Kansas State, Shepherd has posted receiving lines of 4 catches for 99 yards and a touchdown and 5 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown, respectively. I mentioned before he leads Colorado in receiving snaps as well this season. And then the receiver that we were blanking on before, the other one that got injured in addition to Omari Miller, it was Terrell Timmons. And then Jimmy Horn might not be 100% in this one. Travis Hunter, he's going to play. Will he be 100%? Will they cut down on his offensive snaps at all because he's a little bit depreciated, like the over on Shepherd? Bainbridge, do you have any receiver ones?
Yeah, a couple. Junior Sherrill for Vanderbilt was listed at 47.5 receiving yards. I don't think he's hit that mark at once this season. So very
today, Junior.
Hopefully not. So I like his under there. I'll save my best play for later at wide receiver. And then I think one of the biggest edges that we had with our CFF site projections was Jamal Banks. 42.5 receiving yards. We have him at 71 receiving yards. I think Nebraska's going to have to
over both
over 2.
I mean, I
you can
think
get him at 216. Yeah, they're going to
throw
this
Bainbridge. I paired the over with Rayola with Banks.
There you go. See, I love that. They're going to have to throw against Indiana this week. So those are two of my receiver plays.
And we got to go quick through the end because we've hit the half-hour mark. But Froton, other wide receiver ones.
Yeah, Chimeri DK, Florida. He has, with DJ Lagway has shown that he really likes him. Got 8 targets last game. His over-under is only 34.5, and he's been absolutely dominating that each of the past 5 games. Like, not even close. Just because it's a QB switch, I don't think that matters, regardless of opponent. I'm with DK, 34.5, too reasonable. We mentioned Will Shepherd as well. KJ Concepcion, NC State. I know this might be a little bit hot, but I'm getting hot. 46.5 receiving yards. I'm sorry. He is the second least explosive wide receiver in the Power 4. 7.7% of his targets or his catches are going for 20-plus yards. He gets the carries, which doesn't affect us here. We're talking about receiving yards. He's used in creative ways, but NC State playing Cal across the country. Poor quarterback, as we've seen. He's converting. For some perspective, CJ Daniels.
We got to go quick, Froton.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I get excited. CJ Daniels has converted the fewest third down passing opportunities in the entire country. 15% third down passing conversion rate. I just don't see him be able to move the ball. Ja'Cory Brooks, you got to take the over. Ricky White is at 5.5 receptions on Sleeper. What is going on?
94.5 receiving yards, too.
Take the over. And I'm going to double it up with Xavier Restrepo Throat. 5.5 receptions. Again, Sleeper, just giving it to us. Just going to hand us 5.5 receptions for those two. Pair those two up and double your money.
Xavier Restrepo Throat, you're a sick man. Tight ends, we have to go real quick hitters on this one. I went Shimon Mateer, the tight end for Arizona State, under 13.5 longest reception for him. Again, I don't think Arizona State is going to get too aggressive in this game with Jeff Sims at quarterback. And then I also went over on the Iowa State tight end, Benjamin Brahmer, 14.5 yards against UCF. UCF, we've mentioned this a million times. UCF has a trash pass defense, and they've been throwing Rocco Becht, who has also been brought up in this episode. We like the passing environment for Iowa State today, and Becht has been looking at Brahmer more recently. So going over on him, Bamer, do you have any tight end ones?
Probably Loveland over 51.5. I think Eric
we're head to head on that one.
We're savage.
Wow. They don't throw to anybody else, and I think another week of practice for Jack Tuttle with the first team offense. They'll throw it a little bit more. Real quick, though, I think Froton will cover this one, but they are throwing out Corey Dyches at 27.5, and he is very questionable this week. So if he plays, will he play the full game? Might want to look into that one.
Froton?
On the other side of that, I'm glad you set me up beautifully, Bainbridge. On the other side of that, Corey Dyches banged up last week, left the game. You know who didn't leave the game last week? My man, Jack Endries. He's got the Jack, all right, AC/DC. Mr. Endries last 2 games ago against Miami, 3 catches on 3 targets, 78 yards and a touch last week with Dyches banged up. Caught all 8 of his targets, 119 and a touchdown. Woo! Give me Jack Endries. Also, his father, Robert Endries, friend of the program, has retweeted our links before.
Wow.
Nothing but love for the Endries family.
And nothing but love for the Cal program too. Love that squad,
love, baby.
Yeah, they're good times. All right, so let's get into our plays of the day. Since we've already run over on time, but let's do the round robin. Let's kick it off, Gene. Let's start with you. What's the coach's corner today?
Well, you guys know that I just like to start off with a hearty salute to the Service Academy out there, who've been keeping me fat and happy over the entire season. And I don't think today's different. Thor, I don't like to disagree with you very much. However, I think you might want to reconsider that daily play. 123 average for him this season. Over the last 5 games, 130 rushing yards, 110 rushing yards, 152 rushing yards, 145 rushing yards, 117 rushing yards. This dude is running the ball. He is a daily double, right? I think if you're looking at a game, this Army game versus East Carolina, there's levels to this thing. And East Carolina's just not on that level. When you give up 311 yards to Charlotte, that's not a good sign when you're about to play a well-oiled machine Service Academy. When you give up 170 yards to UTSA, that's not a very good sign when you're about to hit a Service Academy. When you give up 191 yards to Liberty, you are probably about to get blown out by a Service Academy. You know why? Because Army runs the ball efficiently. They run for God and country. They run because they know it's their duty. They run because one day they're going to have to run to save lives. And right now, they're saving my pocketbook. Give me Army 16.5. The Service Academy stimulus package is still alive. You can put it on the board.
Yes. Bainbridge, I don't know how you're going to follow that up, but please try.
Well, I will add to that Caden Hauser is starting for ECU, which I think we saw him at Michigan State. Not very good. So I side with Gene on that one. My play of the day is Isaiah Horton over 45.5 receiving yards. Most places he's up over 50. You can still get him at 45.5 at Bet Rivers, 46.5 at ESPN. I like those. He's taken over the wide receiver 2 job over Jacoby George. Sorry, Eric. And I mean, how can you bet against Miami wide receivers at this point when Miami is number 1 in the nation in passing yards and 17th in passing volume? Horton his usage is up over Jacoby George over the last few weeks, 24 targets in the last 3 games. I like him over 45.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, and against that terrible Louisville pass defense, the sky's the limit for the passing yards with Miami today. Froton, your play of the day, your torpedo.
Yeah, no problems with Horton. Here's a who. And who? Oh, you've heard his name mentioned all throughout this broadcast. None other than Jeff Sims. That's
Jeff
right.
Sims, baby.
We are being blessed today, everybody. It isn't every week you get a Jeff Sims line. And in fact, it's the first week all season. And if you remember correctly, as discussed, he single-handedly cratered the Nebraska offense. And then before that, what did he do to Jeff Collins, Thor? He single-handedly got Jeff Collins fired over there at Georgia Tech. This man is getting a start. I cannot believe our good fortune. I have pounded this every way you can pound it. You hear me now and you hear me good. You will see the bourgeoisie. All right? Not the proletariat. The bourgeoisie, Trenton Bourget, is taking second-team snaps. You will see Trenton Bourget in this game. There's no way you're seeing a full game out of Jeff Sims. There's things that just don't happen in reality, and that's one of them, okay? You have a better chance of seeing a ghost tonight in the corner of your bedroom than you do of seeing Jeff Sims throw over 29.5 pass attempts. You can get 30.5 in some places, 20.5, whatever you got to get.
It's great. That game starts in 20 minutes. The line we've been hitting that all week. It hasn't moved yet.
What do you do? What's happening?
I mean, he's right under some of these guys where the offenses throw all the time. Jeff Sims, he stinks. Kenny Dillingham is a good coach too. You're going to just run there. That is the weakness of the Cincinnati defense. 29.5 pass attempts is a joke. 15.5 completions is a joke. He's going to get some free ones from Scadaboo, of course. Outside of that, what are we doing? I don't know. And then 169.5 passing yards.
Everybody's making mistakes. Every single book that is allowing us a Jeff Sims line has to have a sincere, like, Monday morning, 9 a.m. mandatory company meeting in the office. No remote meetings in the office to talk about Jeff Sims.
Everybody gets fired. My one, I'll do it quick because we're now a little bit over on time, as might be. But the Houston quarterback, Zion Chris, going over 36.5 rushing yards at my beloved Kansas Jayhawks, sad face. And I'm also going Zion, Passion of the Chris, over 16.5, his longest rush. Chris, the last game, he came in as the quarterback. They benched Donovan Smith, and Chris in his first start this season, 97 rushing yards on 11 carries as Houston upset TCU. In 2 games before that, he ran for 63 yards in off the bench limited action against Iowa State and Cincinnati. So that's what he is. He's an athlete, and Willie Fritz loves to run the quarterback. 36.5. That is a steal. And Houston might be live in that game as well.
Our Lord and Savior right now is on the screen, Thor. I don't know if you see the amazing Photoshop job you've done, but the passion of the Zion Chris is... Oh my God, it's beautiful.
The passion of the Chris. And with that, we have run out of time. For my co-host, Eric Froton of NBC Sports, the coach, Gene Clemons, and our weekly special guest, Mike Bainbridge, thank you for joining us. And thank you to the audience for joining us. Appreciate everyone who came out. We'll be here same time, same place next week. I'm your host, Thor Nystrom. Enjoy the games today. Let's go cash some tickets.